Hey everyone, welcome to March the 16th reading. Super excited to jump back into God's Word today. We're picking up in Deuteronomy chapter 13, and God's giving again some important instructions to His people. Right? They're getting ready to go across the Jordan River. They're getting ready to go into the Promised Land, and God's trying to give them instruction, give them healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are so important for for all of us. Okay, in fact, one great book written by Henry Cloud is the book called Boundaries. If you've never read it, I'd encourage you to read it. But so much of life is making sure that we establish the healthy boundaries that we're going to live with. Okay, and so that's part of what God's doing here. So let's jump in. Deuteronomy chapter 13. It says, suppose there are prophets among you and those who dream dreams about the future, and they promise you signs or miracles, and the predicted signs or miracles occur. If they then say, come, let us worship other gods you have not known before, do not listen to them. Underline that. Do not listen to them. The Lord your God is testing you to see if you truly love him with all your heart and soul. Serve only the Lord your God and fear him alone. Obey his commands, listen to his voice, and cling to him. The false prophets or visionaries who try to lead you astray must be put to death, for they encourage rebellion against the Lord your God, who redeemed you from slavery and brought you out of the land of Egypt. Since they tried to lead you astray from the Lord, the way the Lord your God commanded you to live, you must put them to death, and in this way you will purge the evil from among you. Just stop here real quickly. When it says the Lord is testing you, he's saying in that moment, it's not that God has sent a false prophet, to do that, but in that moment, the Lord he's watching, and this is a pass fail test that the Lord might not have given it, but the Lord is certainly he's watching in that moment, and he is going to determine whether or not you pass or fail. Okay, this is a test. And are you going to follow or are you not? And so the Lord's using this moment to see where your heart really is. It says, suppose someone secretly entices you, or even your brother, your son, or your daughter, your beloved wife, or your closest friend, and says, let us go worship other gods. You see the trend here? Worshiping other gods. Gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known. They might suggest that you worship the gods of people who live nearby or who come from the other ends of the earth. But do not give in or listen. Have no pity. Underline that. Have no pity, and do not spare or protect them. You must put them to death. Strike the first blow yourself, and then all the people must join in. Stone the guilty ones to death because they have tried to draw you away from the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of slavery. Then all Israel will hear about it and be afraid, and no one will act so wickedly again. When you begin living in the towns the Lord your God is giving you, you may hear that scoundrels among you are leading their fellow citizens astray by saying, let us go worship other gods you have not known before. And in such cases, you must examine the facts carefully. And if you find that the report is true and such a detestable act has been committed among you, you must attack that town and completely destroy all its inhabitants as well as all the livestock. Then you must pile all the plunder in the middle of the open square and burn it. Burn the entire town as a burnt offering to the Lord your God. That town must remain a ruin forever. It may never be rebuilt. Keep none of the plunder that has been set apart for destruction. Then the Lord will turn from his fierce anger and be merciful to you. He will have compassion on you and make you a large nation, just as he swore to your ancestors. The Lord your God will be merciful only if you listen to his voice and keep all his commands that I am giving you today, doing what pleases him. Deuteronomy 14. Since you are the people of the Lord your God, never cut yourselves or shave the hair above your foreheads in the morning for the dead. You have been set apart as holy to the Lord your God, and he has chosen you from all the nations of the earth to be his own special treasure. You must not eat any detestable animals that are ceremonially unclean. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the addax, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. You may eat any animal that has completely split hooves and chews the cud, but if the animal doesn't have both, it may not be eaten. So you may not eat the camel, the hare, or the hyrax. They chew the cud but do not have split hooves. So they're unclean for you, ceremonially unclean for you. And you may not eat the pig. It has split hooves but does not chew the cud. So it is ceremonially unclean for you. You may not eat the meat of these animals or even touch their carcasses. Of all the marine animals, you may eat whatever has both fins and scales, but you may not, however, eat marine animals that do not have both fins and scales. They are ceremonially unclean for you. You may eat any bird that is ceremonially clean. These are the birds you may not eat: the griffin vulture, the bearded vulture, the black vulture, the kite, the falcon, buzzards of all kinds, ravens of all kinds, the eagle owl, the short-eared owl, the seagull, hawk of all the kinds, the little owl, the great owl, the barn owl, the desert owl, and the Egyptian vulture, the cormorant, the stork, herons of all kinds, the hoopoe, and the bat. All winged insects that walk along the ground are ceremonially unclean for you and may not be eaten. But you may eat any winged bird or insect that is ceremonially clean. You must not eat anything that has died of a natural death. You may give it to a foreigner living in your town, or you may sell it to a stranger, but do not eat it yourselves, for you are set apart as holy to the Lord your God. And you must not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. You must set aside a tithe of your crops, 1/10 of all the crops you harvest each year. Bring this tithe to the designated place of worship, the place the Lord your God chooses for his name to be honored, and eat it there in his presence. This applies to your tithes of grain, new wine, olive oil, and the firstborn males of all your flocks and herds. Doing this will teach you always to fear the Lord your God. Now, when the Lord your God blesses you with a good harvest, the place of worship he chooses for his name to be honored might be too far from you to bring the tithe. If so, you may sell the tithe portion of your crops and herds, put the money in a pouch, and go to the place the Lord your God has chosen. When you arrive, you may use the money to buy any kind of food you want: cattle, sheep, goats, wine, or other alcoholic drink. Then feast there in the presence of the Lord your God and celebrate with your household. And do not neglect the Levites in your town, for they will receive no allotment of land among you. At the end of every third year, bring the entire tithe of that year's harvest and store it in the nearest town. Give it to the Levites, who will receive no allotment of land among you, as well as to the foreigners living among you, the orphans and widows in your towns, so they can eat and be satisfied. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all your work. Deuteronomy 15. At the end of every 7th year, you must cancel the debts of everyone who owes you money. This is how it must be done. Everyone must cancel the loans they have made to their fellow Israelites. They must not demand money or payment from their neighbors or relatives, for the Lord's time of release has arrived. This release from debt, however, applies only to your fellow Israelites, not to the foreigners living among you. There should be no poor among you, for the Lord your God will greatly bless you in the land he is giving you as a special possession. You will receive this blessing if you are careful to obey all the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today. The Lord your God will bless you as he has promised. You will lend money to many nations, but will never need to borrow. You will rule many nations, but they will not rule over you. But if there are any poor Israelites in your towns, when you arrive in the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Instead, be generous and lend them whatever they need. Do not be mean-spirited and refuse someone a loan, because the year for canceling debts is close at hand. If you refuse to make the loan and the needy person cries out to the Lord, you will be considered guilty of sin. Give generously to the poor, not grudgingly, for the Lord your God will bless you in everything you do. There will always be some in the land who are poor. That is why I am commanding you to share freely with the poor and with other Israelites in need. If a fellow Hebrew sells himself or herself to be your servant and serves you for 6 years, in the 7th year you must set that servant free. When you release a male servant, do not send him away empty-handed. Give him a generous farewell gift from your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress. Share with him some of the bounty with which the Lord your God has blessed you. Remember that you were once slaves in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. That is why I am giving you this command. But suppose your servants say, I will not leave you, because he loves you and your family, and he has done well with you. In that case, take an awl and push it through his earlobe into the door. And after that, he will be your servant for life, and do the same for your female servants. You must not consider a hardship when you release your servants. Remember that for 6 years they have given you services worth double the wages of hired workers, and the Lord your God will bless you in all you do. You must set aside for the Lord your God all the firstborn males from your flocks and herds. Do not use the firstborn of your herds to work your fields, and do not shear the firstborn of your flocks. Instead, you and your family must eat these animals in the presence of the Lord your God each year at the place he chooses. But if this firstborn animal has any defects such as lameness or blindness, or if anything else is wrong with it, you must not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. Instead, use it for food for your family in your hometown. Anyone, whether ceremonially clean or unclean, may eat it, just as anyone may eat a gazelle or deer. But you must not consume the blood. You must pour it out on the ground like water. Deuteronomy 16. In honor of the Lord your God, celebrate the Passover each year in the early spring in the month of Abib, for that was the month in which the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. Your Passover sacrifice may be from either the flock or the herd, and it must be sacrificed to the Lord your God at the designated place of worship, the place he chooses for his name to be honored. Eat it with bread made without yeast. For 7 days the bread you eat must be made without yeast, as when you escaped from Egypt in such a hurry. Eat this bread, the bread of suffering, so that as long as you live, you will remember the day you departed from Egypt. Let no yeast be found in any house throughout your land for those 7 days. And when you sacrifice the Passover lamb on the evening of the first day, do not let any of the meat remain until the next morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover in just any of the towns that the Lord your God is giving you. You must offer it only at the designated place of worship, the place the Lord your God chooses for his name to be honored. Sacrifice it there in the evening as the sun goes down on the anniversary of your exodus from Egypt. Roast the lamb and eat it in the place the Lord your God chooses. Then you may go back to your tents the next morning. For the next 6 days, you may not eat any bread made with yeast. On the 7th day, proclaim another holy day in the honor of the Lord your God, and no work may be done on that day. Count off 7 weeks from when you first begin to cut the grain at the time of harvest. Then celebrate the festival of harvest to honor the Lord your God. Bring him a voluntary offering in proportion to the blessings you have received from him. This is a time to celebrate before the Lord your God at the designated place of worship he will choose for his name to be honored. Celebrate with your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, the Levites from your towns, and the foreigners, orphans, and widows who live among you. Remember that you were once slaves in Egypt, so be careful to obey all these decrees. You must observe the festival of shelters for 7 days at the end of the harvest season, after the grain has been threshed and the grapes have been pressed. This festival will be a happy time of celebrating with your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites, foreigners, orphans, and widows from your town. For 7 days you must celebrate this festival to honor the Lord your God at the place he chooses. For it is he who blesses you with bountiful harvests and gives you success in all your work. This festival will be a time of great joy for all. Each year, every man in Israel must celebrate these 3 festivals: the festival of unleavened bread, the festival of harvest, and the festival of shelters. On each of these occasions, all men must appear before the Lord your God at the place he chooses, but they must not appear before the Lord without a gift for him. For all must give as they are able, according to the blessings given to them by the Lord your God. That's good. Those are good things to underline. So So God's wanting to again remind his people that he's the one that blesses them. And he just has poured out his blessings, and he builds these festivals in here for them to just be reminded and to live with gratitude. And again, it's something so important for us. Again, just kind of stepping up from the details and remembering what kind of heart does God want us to have? What are these things? What's the purpose behind them? It's to make sure that he's creating inside of us a generosity, an appreciation, a thankfulness, that we would never forget, where all of these blessings come from, that we never forget in the moment that we are living under the beautiful, blessed hand of God. It's just absolutely incredible. And so we too, even though we might not be Jewish and we might not be, celebrating those same festivals, we need to live our lives, with gratitude and really in celebration of all that God has done for us. And those cadence, that cadence in our life needs to be there in some capacity. So that's why God has given us these things. That's why God gave the Israelites these important instructions and festivals and the tithe and all of those things. So what does that mean for us? That's a good thing to just wrestle through. What does that mean for you? How can we make sure that we have hearts that are truly filled with gratitude, and that we don't lose sight of that? And when we lose sight of the fact that God has led us, that God has blessed us, that we live under His hand, what happens is we can be um, we can become people who are filled with fear. We lose faith in God. We start moving into self-reliance, and we can also start living in idolatry of the things that we have, because we forget to recognize where those things came from, and make sure that we keep the priority of worshiping God versus worshiping those things. So those things are very important for us, and so it's good for us to wrestle through and really make sure that we are keeping our hearts soft before God. All right. Well, God bless you. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you tomorrow.